What happens when the man who owns the company slips behind the counter, scoops your ice cream, and learns something that stops him cold? Nathaniel Foster hadn't set foot behind a scoop counter in over 15 years. The ice cream chain his father built from a single cart by the beach had grown into 17 busy locations across the state. Nathaniel inherited it all 5 years ago after his father passed. Since then, he'd focused on expansion, partnerships, and marketing deals. He trusted his team to handle the stores, but lately, something was off. 3 stores had seen a drop in customer ratings. Not huge, just enough to make him pause. One of them, a location tucked in a working-class neighborhood by the old train yard, used to get praised for its service. Now the comments were about long waits, cold staff, missing orders. Nathaniel had never met most of the employees. With so many locations, staff rotated often. He knew the district managers, but not the hourly workers, and that's exactly what he wanted. He called his assistant, told her to block 5 days. "I'm going into the field," he said. "And don't tell anyone, not even the district manager." She raised an eyebrow. "What's your cover?" "New hire. Going in as Nate Fields, bearded, glasses, longer hair. Got a friend who does makeup for crime shows. I'll blend." He showed up on Monday morning wearing worn jeans, a button-up, and a name tag that said Nate. The store manager, a tall guy named Derek, barely looked up from the tablet in his hand. "You're the new guy." "You're late. I was told 9:30. It's 9:29, don't argue, grab gloves, you'll be shadowing Miles today." Miles was already behind the counter, scooping rocky road into a cone with practiced speed. He glanced up, nodded. "Just follow me, man. I'll show you how not to break your wrist doing this." Nathaniel smiled. "You don't look much older than me." "I'm 33 and I feel 60. Come on, I'll teach you the wrist flick." They worked side by side for the next few hours. Nathaniel took orders, scooped, restocked the napkin dispensers. By noon, he'd already noticed a few things. 1. The back freezer was a mess, boxes stacked wrong, labels missing. 2. The manager didn't lift a finger. Derek mostly stayed on his phone or in the back room, barking orders every now and then. 3. Miles was doing too much. Handling customers, training Nathaniel, cleaning spills, even covering a register when another worker took a long break. "You always this busy?" Nathaniel asked, wiping down the counter. Miles gave a tired smile. "We're short 2 people. One quit last week, the other called out again. I've been closing solo the last few nights." "Why not hire more?" Miles shrugged. "Derek says we're not allowed." "Budget freeze or something, but who knows?" Nathaniel pressed. "And you don't mind picking up all the extra shifts?" Miles hesitated, then gave a dry laugh. "I do, but I need them." He didn't elaborate. A mother with 2 kids stepped up, and Miles switched back to full customer service mode. After the rush, they took a break behind the shop. Miles lit a cigarette, offered Nathaniel one. He declined. "You got kids?" Nathaniel asked. Miles exhaled. "Yeah, one, my son Parker, he's 6. Brightest kid I ever met, talks more than anyone should be legally allowed to." Nathaniel chuckled. "Sounds like a handful. I love him to death. His mom left when he was 2. I've been doing it solo since." Nathaniel looked at him, really looked. There were purple bags under Miles's eyes. His uniform wasn't dirty, but it was worn. His shoes had duct tape on one heel. "You ever get time off?" Miles shook his head. "Can't afford to. I get paid hourly, no benefits. If I don't work, I don't eat, and Parker doesn't either." Nathaniel felt it like a punch to the chest. This man had been the backbone of the shop all day, and he was hanging on by threads. Before he could say anything, Derek stepped outside. "Miles, your break's over. Let's go. New guy, stock the cones." Miles nodded, flicked the cigarette out, and walked back in. Nathaniel stayed frozen for a second. He'd come here to see why the store was slipping. He hadn't expected to find a man this strong, this steady, doing everything right and still barely surviving. And he hadn't expected to feel so damn guilty. By Wednesday morning, Nate had learned how to flip waffle cones without burning his knuckles, how to read a birthday cake order ticket upside down while dodging a toddler's spilled sprinkles, and how to pretend Derek's passive-aggressive tone didn't crawl under his skin. The store was running like a leaky faucet, functional but slowly rusting from the inside. The issues weren't just about dropped scoops or slow lines. It was deeper, cultural, structural. Nathaniel had seen enough businesses rot from the top down to recognize the signs, but he needed to be sure. At 9:25 sharp, he stepped into the back room just as Derek finished a call. Yeah. Tell them we don't have to honor that coupon. If they complain, give them a free topping and shut it down. We're not losing $1 over some expired flyer. Derek looked up, then waved a hand. I need you to clean the freezer floor. Something leaked last night. Nathaniel nodded and crouched to grab gloves. You always handle customer issues like that. I handle them so we don't get walked on. You'll learn. By 10, the store was open and already buzzing. A school group had stopped by 15 kids, 2 teachers, and a chaperone who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Miles was managing the line with steady hands, keeping the chaos under control. Nathaniel took the second register. A girl with a blue backpack asked for a swirl cone with gummy worms. He nodded, scooped, and handed it off. Thank you, she beamed. The next customer was a woman in her late 60s with a cane. She moved slowly, reading the menu with thoughtful eyes. Take your time, Nathaniel said gently. She looked up, surprised. Oh, thank you, dear. She settled on a single scoop of butter pecan. Nathaniel rang her up, then stepped to the back to grab a fresh container it had run out halfway through the last order. As he returned, he heard Derek's voice snap across the room. We don't have all day, ma'am. If you don't know what you want, maybe come back when you're ready. Nathaniel froze. The woman looked stunned. She fumbled with her wallet, then quietly turned to leave. Miles stepped forward. I've got her. She's fine. But she was already halfway to the door. Nathaniel didn't think. He left the counter, walked to the entrance. Ma'am, he said, keeping his voice low, please stay, I've got your order. She paused, eyes wary. He held out the cone. On the house. And I'm sorry for the way you were spoken to. Her eyes softened. She accepted the cone, nodded once, then stepped outside. He turned back. Derek was glaring. You don't override me in front of customers, ever. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. She wasn't being difficult, she was just slow. I don't care, we're not a retirement home, we've got quotas. Move people in, move them out. Miles stood by the sink, motionless. His eyes didn't meet either of theirs. Nathaniel didn't say anything more, but he didn't forget it. Later that afternoon, Miles was restocking syrup bottles when a teenage worker, Brielle, pulled Nathaniel aside near the storage closet. You're new, right? You seem decent, just don't get too comfortable. What do you mean? Derek's got this thing where he picks favorites. If you're not one of them, he'll make you miserable until you quit. Last week he made Tasha cry during closing. What happened? She asked to swap a shift because her mom was in the hospital. He said if she couldn't prioritize this job, she didn't need it. Nathaniel's stomach turned. Did she report it? Brielle gave a dry laugh. To who? The district manager. He's Derek's cousin. Nathaniel felt the full weight of that land, so that was how this had gone unchecked. Why do you stay? He asked. I'm saving for college, only 6 more months. I just keep my head down. Nathaniel nodded once. He wouldn't press her further. Not now. That night after closing, Miles offered him a ride. Nathaniel hesitated, then accepted. The inside of the car was clean but old. A car seat sat in the back, a juice box tucked into the side pocket. Thanks, Nathaniel said, buckling in. No problem, you good? Nathaniel glanced at him. You ever had issues with Derek? Miles didn't answer immediately. He turned onto the main road, eyes fixed ahead. I've had worse, but yeah, he crosses lines. Why not report him? I did, once. Got told it'd be handled internally. Next week I got cut from full-time to 30 hours. I stopped pushing after that. Nathaniel stayed quiet. They drove in silence for a few blocks. Then Miles spoke again. I know who you are. Nathaniel stiffened. I didn't at first. But yesterday, a customer said you looked like the guy from the commercials. I Googled you. Nathaniel exhaled. I guess the glasses weren't enough. I won't say anything, but I gotta ask, why are you really here? I needed to see what we've become. Miles nodded slowly. Well. You're seeing it. They pulled up outside Nathaniel's rental. He unbuckled, then paused. You ever think about managing? Miles laughed softly. I've thought about a lot of things, but thinking doesn't pay the rent. Nathaniel didn't reply. He stepped out, closed the door, and watched the car drive off. He stood in the quiet for a long time, the night air cold against his skin. Tomorrow he would have to make a decision, not just about Derek, about the entire system that let this happen. Thursday morning started with rain tapping against the storefront windows in uneven rhythms, the kind of weather that usually slowed foot traffic. Nathaniel arrived early, before the lights were on, before the machines had warmed. Miles was already inside, wiping down the prep counters, earbuds in. He didn't notice Nathaniel until he was a few feet away. "You ever take a day off?" Nathaniel asked, pulling on gloves. Miles paused the music. "I'm usually the one opening. Derek shows up late most days, if he shows up at all." Nathaniel flipped the switch on the whipped cream dispenser. He scheduled himself for the late shift today. Miles nodded without looking up. Figures. They worked side by side in silence for a while. The rhythm of prep work was different when the store was empty. No customers, no pressure. Just the mechanical hum of freezers and the soft thud of scoops settling into tubs. Mid-morning, Brielle came in. Her eyes were swollen, her hair damp from the rain. "You all right?" Nathaniel asked, handing her a towel. She hesitated before answering. "Our power went out last night. Had to get ready at my neighbor's place. Sorry if I'm a little off today." "You're here, that's what matters." She gave a tight nod and headed to the register. Nathaniel watched her shoulders tense, hunched, and made a mental note to check in again later. By noon, a slow trickle of customers had started to gather. A pair of construction workers ordered sundaes to go. A young couple shared a banana split at the window-facing table. For a while, everything felt manageable. Then Derek walked in. He didn't greet anyone. Just made a beeline for the office, coffee in hand. Minutes later, his voice cut through the back hallway. "Who stocked the toppings like this? It's a mess." No one responded. Nathaniel waited, hoping Miles wouldn't be the one he called out. "Nate, you've been here all week. Were you trained to restock in reverse order or not?" "I followed what Miles showed me, so incompetence passed down the chain." "Great." Nathaniel turned slowly. "You want to show me the correct method?" Derek leaned against the doorframe. "That's not my job." "That's why I have floor staff." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "Then maybe don't yell about it from the hallway." Miles stepped in before things could escalate. "I can fix it. It'll take 2 minutes." Derek didn't thank him. He just disappeared into the back again. Later that afternoon, the issue came to a head. A middle-aged man walked in with his daughter, who was using a mobility aid. She had a bright pink scarf wrapped around her neck and a quiet, excited smile as she approached the counter. Nathaniel stepped forward to take their order. "She'd like the cotton candy swirl, please," the father said. "In a cup." Nathaniel rang it up, scooped the ice cream, and handed it off. The girl grinned and gave him a quiet thank you. Derek emerged from the back just as they were stepping aside. "You can't sit at that table," he said, motioning toward one of the corner booths. The father blinked. "Why not? That section's for large groups. I need to keep it open for the after-school rush." "There's barely anyone here." Derek exhaled sharply. "Sir, I don't make the rules. I enforce them. You can use the standing table." The girl looked up, confused. Her father crouched beside her. "We'll figure it out," he said, voice low. Nathaniel stepped forward. "They're fine where they are." Derek turned to him. "Excuse me," I said, "they're fine. If the rush comes, we'll find other seating. You don't get to override seating protocols." Nathaniel's voice was even. "You're enforcing a policy that doesn't exist. This isn't about space, it's about control." Derek took a step closer. "You're a trainee. Don't talk to me like you know how this place runs." Nathaniel's face changed, calm but steely. "I know more than you think." He turned to Miles. "Can you keep an eye on things for a few minutes?" Miles nodded, eyes flicking between them. Nathaniel walked past Derek into the back office. He took out his phone, opened the employee dashboard, and entered his credentials. The screen lit up with full admin access. He printed a termination form, signed it, and walked back out. "Derek," he said, loud enough for the whole floor to hear, "you're done here." Derek blinked. "What are you talking about?" Nathaniel pulled off the name tag. "My name isn't Nate Fields." He looked around the room. "I'm Nathaniel Foster. I own this company." The staff froze. Brielle's eyes widened. Miles backed up a step, stunned. "You're joking," Derek said, laugh dry and disbelieving. Nathaniel held up the printed form. "You've violated company values repeatedly. Hostile behavior to both staff and customers. Failure to lead by example. You're being terminated, effective immediately." "You can't be serious. I've seen enough." You've created a toxic environment and it ends now." Derek looked around for support. No one spoke. He scoffed, grabbed his jacket, and walked out without another word. As soon as the door closed, the room exhaled. Miles stepped forward slowly. "You weren't kidding." "I wish I had been." Nathaniel turned to the rest of the staff. "I owe all of you an apology for letting this go on as long as it has. That ends today. We're going to fix this." He stepped closer to Brielle. "Do you have a minute?" She nodded, stunned. They walked toward the back room. Nathaniel sat across from her at the small staff table. "You shouldn't have to fight through power outages just to make it to work. What support do you need right now?" She hesitated. "Honestly, just a little breathing room. I can't keep pulling doubles and still keep up with school. I'm falling behind." "You won't have to anymore. I'm bringing in a temporary manager from a different region to stabilize the schedule. You'll get consistent hours and time to focus on your future." Her shoulders sagged, like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. "Thank you," she said quietly. Next, he pulled Miles aside. "You've been holding this place together." "I tried. Didn't always feel like I was doing enough." "You did more than anyone could have asked. I'd like you to step up as interim manager, full-time, benefits, training support, and a raise." Miles blinked, stunned silent. "You want me running the place? You already are." "I'm just making it official." He looked down, then back up. "I'll do it, but only if I can keep the team we've got. They've put up with too much for too long. You've got my word on that." They shook hands. That evening, Nathaniel stayed after close with Miles and Brielle. They scrubbed the freezer floor, reorganized the back room, and updated the shift schedule for the next week. No one asked him to stay. He wanted to. As they locked up, Miles looked at him. "You still planning on going back to the office in time, but I'll be around more. I can't fix everything from behind a desk." They stepped into the night air, the rain finally gone, streets glistening under streetlights. Nathaniel looked up at the sign above the door. His father's name was still faintly visible in the logo. He'd inherited the business. Now finally, he was beginning to earn it. The following week, Nathaniel returned to the store unshaven, hoodie zipped halfway, baseball cap low. But this time, no disguise, no fake name. The team knew exactly who he was now, and they didn't treat him any differently. That mattered more than he expected. He didn't come to supervise. He came to listen. Miles had stepped into the interim manager role with quiet precision. He hadn't changed who he was, still the first one in, last to leave, but now he had the authority to make decisions that actually improved the day-to-day. He staggered shifts, so no one was stuck alone. He added 15-minute breaks during long stretches. He even set up a whiteboard in the break room with one question written in green marker. "What's not working?" By Friday, the board was nearly full. The register software lagged during peak hours. The freezer door didn't seal properly. The uniforms were uncomfortable in the summer. Nathaniel stood in front of it, arms folded. Miles stepped beside him without a word, chewing on a toothpick. "You keep this up, corporate's going to start calling you for advice." Miles gave a quiet shrug. "I'm not trying to impress anyone. Just trying to make things less miserable." Nathaniel took that in. "You're not just doing that, you're building something better." Behind them, the bell above the entrance jingled. A young man walked in, early 20s, lean frame, paper folder in hand. He looked around, unsure. Miles stepped forward. "You here for the interview?" The kid nodded. "Yeah, I'm Jamie. Come on back." It wasn't flashy, no clipboard, no corporate jargon, just a stool in the back corner and a genuine conversation. Nathaniel watched from a distance. Jamie had scars on his hands, the kind that came from hard labor. When he pulled out a reference letter written in pencil on lined notebook paper, Miles didn't blink. "Just read it," nodded, and asked about his availability. By the end of the day, Jamie had a part-time slot on the weekend schedule. That was the shift. Not a memo, not a press release, just a store that had space for someone new. The next day, Nathaniel met with the district supervisor, Derek's cousin. The man arrived late, gold watch catching light as he adjusted his collar and made a show of checking his phone throughout the meeting. Nathaniel didn't bother with pleasantries. "I've reviewed operations across your stores," he said. "You've been overseeing 7 locations. 3 have had complaints about inconsistent management." The man leaned back. "We've been under budget pressure. Managers have to be firm." You've had 5 documented HR incidents under your watch in the last year. 2 of them escalated to formal investigations. You didn't follow up on any of them. The man's tone shifted. I didn't realize they were that serious. I think you did. You just didn't care. There was no shouting, no drama, just a final email sent from Nathaniel's phone terminating his employment immediately. Nathaniel had already cleared it with HR. By the time he left the office, a new regional supervisor had been appointed, a woman named Carla, who had worked her way up from store floor to training lead. She took over the role the next morning, visited the store by noon, and sat with every employee for 10 minutes. No clipboard, just notes in a small leather journal. Nathaniel didn't hover. He trusted her. Instead, he returned to the floor. Brielle was working the register. Her posture was different now, more upright, more present. Nathaniel placed a hand on the counter. "How's school?" She looked up. "Better. I'm only working evenings now. Got my midterm score back yesterday." "How'd you do?" She held up 3 fingers. "Third highest in the class." Not surprised, she grinned once, then turned back to the next customer. In the back, Jamie was learning to refill the soft serve machine. He moved slowly but asked sharp questions. Miles was patient, showing him the ropes without taking over. It was the kind of training that built trust, not just routine. At one point, Jamie asked, "Why do you do this like that instead of the way the manual says?" Miles didn't flinch. "Because the manual's written by someone who's never cleaned one of these machines with sticky syrup drying behind the panel. You'll get it." Nathaniel stayed out of it. He didn't need to step in. By mid-afternoon, the line reached the door. A birthday party had rolled in unannounced. 12 kids, all loud, all hopped up on sugar and freedom. Miles kept the line moving. Brielle handled payments. Jamie passed out napkins like a battlefield medic. Nathaniel grabbed a scoop and jumped in. The work was fast, messy, and real. At one point, a boy in an oversized hoodie dropped his cone and burst into tears. Before anyone could react, Miles was already stepping out from behind the counter, kneeling down. "You want the same flavor again?" he asked gently. The boy nodded. Miles turned back. "Nathaniel, can you get another scoop of the chocolate peanut butter crunch?" Nathaniel didn't hesitate. He handed it off without a word. The boy stopped crying long enough to whisper, "Thank you." That evening, after the store closed, Nathaniel called a meeting in the break room. No agenda. No speech. He just sat at the center table while the team gathered around. "I've spent the last 2 weeks seeing what I should have known months ago," he said. "This company was built on people who care. Somewhere along the way, I stopped paying attention to how hard that actually is." No one interrupted. "I can't undo what's already happened, but I can make sure going forward, this place works for the people who keep it alive." He looked at each of them, one by one. "To start, every employee here is getting a pay adjustment. Not just a raise to meet minimums, but a real increase based on what you've earned. Starting next month, full-time staff will have access to health benefits." Jamie's mouth opened slightly. He looked at Miles, then back at Nathaniel. "New hires will be trained by people who actually work the floor, not just a video. We're also rolling out a confidential reporting line that goes directly to HR outside the district chain." Brielle leaned forward slightly, listening with a focus that hadn't been there before. "And for anyone taking classes or training to move up, we're setting aside funds to help with tuition or certifications. No more waiting for someone to notice your effort." He paused. "I was gone too long. I won't make that mistake again." When the meeting ended, no one clapped. No one needed to. They just stayed a little longer than they had to, cleaned a little more thoroughly, said goodnight with more than habit. As Nathaniel locked the front door and stepped outside, he looked back through the glass. The store wasn't perfect. The freezer still clicked when the compressor kicked in. The tile near the sink still needed replacing. But the people inside had stopped surviving and started building. That was enough for now. He pulled out his phone, opened the company calendar, and blocked off every third Friday, not for meetings, for shifts, one apron. One scoop. One shift at a time,